When a woman ignores you, most men commit the same fatal mistake. They chase, they beg, they try harder. But Machiavelli understood something modern men have forgotten. Power is not taken by pleading. It is earned through strategic indifference. You don't win a woman over by collapsing in front of her silence. You let her own game destroy her. Her silence is not an accident. It's a calculated move, a psychological test, a strategic battlefield where your emotional strength is being measured. She doesn't want you to fall apart, not directly. She wants to see if you will chase, if you will fold, if you will hand her control. But when you master this principle, you don't lose a woman. You transform her into an admirer. Because silence, used correctly, doesn't diminish your value. It reveals hers. And when you stop reacting and start reflecting, when you become the mirror instead of the performer, everything changes. Have you ever wondered why a woman who seemed interested suddenly disappears? Why she becomes a ghost with no warning? That shift, that withdrawal, it's not random. It's a calculated test of your inner gravity. She's not just vanishing. She's observing, watching if your identity collapses in the absence of her attention. You might think this is personal. It isn't. It's tactical. Because the one who controls the narrative controls the power. And by ignoring you, she's trying to write your role for you, the desperate man chasing a woman who controls when and how she appears. But not all silences are equal. That's the mistake most men make. They treat every kind of silence the same. There are 3 distinct types, and understanding them is like reading the terrain before a battle. First, there is the testing silence. She watches your stories. She ignores your messages. She's present, but non-responsive. She has shown interest, and now she pulls back, not out of disinterest, but to see what you'll do. Like a general observing the enemy's next move before striking, she wants to know, will you hold your line, or will you break formation? Then comes the processing silence. She vanishes completely, not just from you, but from the world. She's off social media. She doesn't respond to anyone. Life has overwhelmed her. This has nothing to do with you. It's her battle, her storm. And if you internalize it as rejection, you're letting your ego sabotage your clarity. The third silence is rejection in disguise. Cold responses, constant excuses, a wall of emotional frost. She has already decided there is no future, but lacks the courage to say it directly. Instead, she waits for you to figure it out through her disinterest. It's not a test. It's a quiet goodbye, cloaked in passive avoidance. So how should you respond to all 3? Here's where the true strategist emerges. The masterstroke is this: you respond the same to each one. You don't chase, you don't decode, you don't collapse. You reflect her energy like a perfect mirror. If she takes 4 hours to reply, you take 4 hours. If she cancels plans, you make new ones without drama. If she turns cold, you remain calm but distant. You give her nothing to grip, no emotional outburst, no desperate reach, just silence matching silence calmly. Because once she realizes she can't manipulate someone who refuses to play the game, her script falls apart. This is the moment where power shifts, not in noise, in quiet control. You must see this for what it is, not a loss, but a revelation. Her silence is not an instruction to pursue. It is information. It tells you who she is, not what you must do. Yet here lies the deeper truth. Recognizing the pattern is not enough. The real mastery lies in what you do with the space her silence creates. Most men make the mistake of waiting. They think ignoring her will somehow win her back. But passivity is not strategy. It is just stagnation in disguise. This is where Machiavellian philosophy shines, not just in defense, but in personal expansion while the enemy hesitates. While she plays her silent games, you build your empire. The time you would have wasted unraveling, her mind becomes fuel for sculpting your discipline. She expects you to panic. Instead, you rise. While she's watching to see if you've seen her story, you're in the gym, sharpening your edge. While she's pulling back to confuse you, you're advancing in your career, creating abundance. While she's cold, you're laughing with friends, deepening bonds, building a social fortress. Every hour she spends calculating your desperation, you invest in becoming too valuable to ignore. You're not pretending you don't care. You truly have more important things to do than interpret her silences. This is the psychological reversal, the turning of the tide. And then it happens. You post progress, you post purpose, you radiate growth. Something clicks in her mind. The silence didn't break you, it propelled you. And now, she's no longer confident. She's concerned. Her mind begins to spiral. He was supposed to need me. He was supposed to chase me. But he's better without me. What if he really doesn't want me? What if he finds someone else while I play these games? This is the power of real value built in real time. Not performative detachment. Actual evolution. You're not acting indifferent. You are indifferent. Because your life is now too full, too focused, too powerful to revolve around indecisive energy. I've seen this transformation in real life. A friend of mine once got the silent treatment from a woman he cared about. Instead of chasing, he focused. He took up cooking classes. He launched a side project. He trained harder than ever. 3 weeks later, she sent him a long message, apologizing for the distance and asking if they could reconnect. What happened? She had bet on his collapse, but instead, he became unrecognizable, in the best way. Her silence revealed her immaturity. His silence revealed his evolution. The power flipped, and the man who was once an option became the one setting the terms. But this is the moment where most men fail. Right when they've gained the upper hand, they give it all back. She reappears with a simple, "Hey, how have you been?" And suddenly, 3 weeks of growth evaporate. They respond instantly. They go back to old habits. They smile too quickly. They forget the silence. And worse, they forget themselves. That is the real test. Not when she ignores you, but when she comes back. Because her return is not always a reunion. Sometimes it's a probe. A test to see if your strength was real or just a performance. If you run back the moment she waves, you prove that your detachment was a lie. That she still controls the game. Machiavelli warned, "Temporary victories are meaningless if you cannot maintain what you've won." True power is not in the conquest. It is in the consistency after victory. So how do you pass this ultimate test? The moment she returns, casually, as if nothing ever happened. You don't flinch. You don't drop everything. You maintain the same energy, the same self-respect, and the same priorities that brought you to this elevated position. If you used to wait 4 hours to reply, you wait 4 hours. If you had routines and boundaries you didn't break before, you don't start breaking them now. She must feel it. Your attention is not free. It's not owed. It's not granted by default. It must be earned. She needs to understand something fundamental. Your life has improved in her absence, and now she has to prove she deserves a place in it. Most men fail here because they think this is about playing hard to get. It's not. It's about consistency. About living by the standards you developed when you were alone. About proving your growth wasn't a performance. It was transformation. I remember another friend who played this moment with surgical precision. After 2 weeks of silence, she reached out, apologized, and suggested they meet. He didn't jump at the chance. He didn't cancel his schedule or send heart emojis. He simply responded with the same calm energy he had maintained all along. He said, "Let me check my calendar. I'll get back to you." And just like that, she realized she wasn't in control anymore. He had truly changed. She had to earn her way back. What followed was a complete shift in dynamics. She started reaching out more. She made plans. She showed effort. Because for the first time, she wasn't responding to weakness. She was responding to strength. Not arrogance, not games, but grounded masculine energy. The kind of energy that doesn't need to chase validation because it creates value on its own. This is the subtle distinction most men miss. They think maintaining boundaries is manipulative. It's not. It's respectful to yourself. Because if you crumble the moment she comes back, what you're really saying is, everything I built was dependent on your attention. And that's not strength. That's dependency wearing a mask. The right woman will respect your consistency. She'll be drawn to your emotional discipline. The wrong woman will be frustrated because she can't control you. Either way, you win. Because both outcomes bring clarity. And clarity is the enemy of manipulation. If she's sincere, she will rise to your level. If she's not, she'll fade. And that's exactly how it should be. By now, you have the fundamental tools. You can read the types of silence. You understand calculated indifference. You know how to build personal value and pass the test of her return. But there's a darker, more dangerous scenario most men aren't prepared for. What if her silence isn't a test, or a phase, but a weapon? What if she's using silence as a psychological trap, a manipulative tool to keep you in a cycle of hope and despair? Some women have perfected this game. They vanish for days, only to return with breadcrumbs of attention, just enough to keep you hooked. Then they disappear again. It's not random. It's engineered, like a casino dangling the next jackpot. You think you're about to win. You never do. This isn't attraction. It's addiction, and you are the one being played. Machiavelli knew some enemies can't be tamed by diplomacy. Some must be neutralized by absolute withdrawal. Not because you're weak, but because you understand some wars have no resolution. Some games aren't worth playing. And some people aren't interested in relationships. They're interested in control. So how do you know when it's time to go nuclear? 3 signs. First, it's been weeks, and she still hasn't responded to direct messages. But she's active on social media. Not just active, but deliberately visible, signaling to you that she's ignoring you on purpose. Second, this is not the first time she's gone silent. It's a repeated pattern. Third, she's using mutual friends to track your reactions. She wants to know if you're asking about her. She's feeding her ego with your concern. When all 3 signs align, you're not dealing with a woman testing your strength. You're dealing with someone feeding on your emotional energy. Someone who sees your interest not as something to reciprocate, but as a source of power. And in this case, there is only one strategy that works: total disconnection. This is beyond calculated indifference. This is the nuclear option. You disappear completely, not with a dramatic goodbye, not with a message designed to provoke guilt. Just silence. Permanent and complete. You remove her from social media. You stop asking mutual friends about her. You avoid places where you know she'll be. You erase her presence from your environment. Why is this so effective? Because manipulators need fuel. They need to know they still have access to your emotions, that at any moment they can push a button and make you dance. But when you vanish, truly vanish, you rob them of their only weapon, your attention. I've seen what happens next. Panic. She starts asking everyone what happened to you. She tries indirect ways of contacting you. She might even try to see you in person, but it's too late, because now you see her clearly. You've realized she wasn't trying to connect. She was trying to control. And the only winning move in that game is not to play. There's a difference between being strong and being wise. The strong man resists manipulation. The wise man recognizes it early and refuses to entertain it. This isn't about revenge. It's about liberation. When you understand that some women don't want love, they want emotional amusement, you stop trying to be the hero in their drama. You stop trying to prove yourself to someone who sees you as a toy, not a partner. And that's when the power fully returns to you. Because the moment you walk away from manipulation, you make room for authenticity. You're no longer trying to earn respect. You're attracting those who offer it freely. You're no longer hoping for her validation. You're living in your own value. This is the ultimate Machiavellian wisdom. Your time, your focus, your emotional energy, they are finite. To give them to someone who uses them to play power games is not persistence. It is self-destruction disguised as loyalty. You're burning your kingdom for a smile that isn't real. But the reward for mastering this principle goes far beyond whether you win or lose with one woman. It's a shift in your entire reality. Her silence was never about you. It was about her. It revealed her character, not your worth. And when you fully absorb that truth, you stop chasing ghosts and start attracting real substance. You become the man who doesn't chase, who doesn't beg, who doesn't lose himself in someone else's game. You filter out the manipulators not by fighting them, but by becoming too grounded, too focused, too evolved to be pulled into their web. You don't lose a partner. You eliminate a problem, and you open yourself up to women who are drawn to communication, clarity, and connection, not confusion. You become the man who is too rare to pursue and too captivating to ignore. The man who doesn't chase is feared. The man who doesn't react is respected. But the man who disappears entirely, he is unforgettable. That's not because of mystery. It's because of power. Because every time she throws silence like a weapon, and you don't flinch, don't beg, don't even pause, you show her that her strategy has no effect on a man who creates meaning without needing validation. And yet, many men fall just before they win. They make it through the silence, through the tests, through the detachment, and the moment she returns, they betray themselves. They break their silence too fast. They smile too wide. They reply too eagerly, as if the silence never happened, as if the power hadn't shifted, as if her return automatically meant she earned her place back. And just like that, all that effort, all that personal growth, all that strength, it collapses like a house of cards, because she realizes in an instant that it was all a performance, that he was only strong because she wasn't around. This is what I call the return test. And it is more treacherous than silence itself, because it doesn't test your patience, it tests your authenticity. If you crack the moment she reappears, you confirm that her absence controlled you. You prove that her silence worked, and that gives her the blueprint to repeat it again and again whenever she wants to pull you back into her orbit. Machiavelli warned us centuries ago, winning a battle means nothing if you cannot hold the position you conquered. So when she comes back, don't see it as a reunion. See it as your final exam. She's not just reaching out, she's measuring, observing, deciding whether your power is permanent or performative. And that's why the answer is simple, but difficult. You don't change anything. You keep living by the rhythm you've built. You stick to your schedule. You answer on your time. You don't rearrange your world to accommodate someone who walked out of it without explanation. She must feel that your life has improved not in spite of her absence, but because of it. That her silence gave you space to become stronger, more focused, more alive. And now, if she wants back in, she has to prove why she deserves to stand beside the version of you that was born in her silence. This isn't cruelty, it's clarity. You're not punishing her, you're protecting the man you've become. Too often, men confuse this with manipulation. They think maintaining boundaries is playing hard to get. But it's not a game. It's coherence. It's refusing to betray the version of you that didn't rely on her attention to rise. It's refusing to regress just because she finally decided to speak. And when you live like this, something profound happens. You stop attracting women who play power games, and you start attracting women who respect power. But there is one final situation that deserves special attention. An extreme. A trap that poisons even the strongest men. What if her silence isn't occasional? What if it's a pattern? A weapon? A cycle of emotional starvation followed by crumbs of affection? This isn't confusion. This is psychological warfare. Some women don't want connection. They want control. They don't want love. They want worship. So they vanish. They reappear. They dangle attention just long enough to reignite your hopes, then disappear again. It's a loop, a dopamine trap, and you're not the man in the story. You're the pawn in her emotional casino. You keep pulling the lever, waiting for the jackpot that never comes. In this case, you don't use indifference. You don't mirror. You evacuate. This is when the nuclear option becomes your salvation. You withdraw not to provoke her, not to win, but to heal, to save yourself. Because she is not engaging with your soul. She is feeding on your attention. And the only way to win is to starve her of the fuel she depends on. No goodbye, no message, no emotional closure. Just disappearance. You remove her from your world as if she never existed. You delete her from your social media. You erase the digital strings she's used to pull you in. You stop asking about her. You don't lurk. You don't wait. You don't hope. You move in silence. And for good. Why does this work? Because her game relies on visibility. She needs to know you're watching. That she still has access. That if she posts, you'll react. That if she disappears, you'll chase. But when you vanish completely, she doesn't get silence. She gets oblivion. And manipulators can't tolerate being erased. They can't handle losing their audience. Because they weren't in love with you. They were in love with your reaction. I've watched this scenario unfold in real time. A man I knew was caught in this toxic loop for months. She'd ghost him, then flirt again, then vanish. One day he simply disappeared. Deleted her, blocked her, stopped speaking her name. 3 weeks later, she was in a frenzy, asking everyone what happened to him, trying to get his attention through mutual friends, even showing up to places they used to go. But by then, it was over. Not just for him, but for her influence, because he finally understood the game and stopped playing. And that's the line that separates a strong man from a wise man. The strong man can resist the manipulation. The wise man avoids the battlefield altogether, because it's not about proving you're stronger than her games. It's about recognizing when the game isn't worth your presence. Some women don't want to build with you, they want to control you. And when you see it, the only winning move is to cancel the show. You don't argue, you don't explain. You walk away so completely, she doubts whether she ever had a role in your life at all. At the end of the day, Machiavelli's wisdom leads us to one truth. Your time, your energy, your emotional bandwidth, they are finite. Spend them wisely. Spend them on growth, not games. On building, not begging. On women who communicate, not those who manipulate. Because when you give your focus to someone who weaponizes it, that's not persistence. It's self-destruction wrapped in hope. And when you learn to walk away from silence, from confusion, from control, you don't just win with women. You win with yourself. You don't just avoid pain. You create peace. You don't just escape a manipulator. You become the kind of man who no longer attracts one. Because your aura no longer signals weakness. It radiates strength, clarity, direction. Her silence was never about you. It never reflected your worth. it only revealed hers. And when you understand that deeply, you stop needing closure. You stop needing answers. You stop needing her to return, because you've already moved on to a place where games don't reach you, and only truth is allowed to enter. That is the power of Machiavellian clarity. That is the reward of emotional discipline. That is what makes you the man too valuable to chase and too grounded to be ignored. If this voice reached something inside you, then you already know. This isn't just about her. It's about becoming someone who never loses himself in the presence or the absence of another. And when you become that man, no silence can touch you again.